Okay, so I actually decided to do this video a little bit later than anticipated because it has to take me about 2 hours to kind of gather my thoughts and just gather pretty much all the information that talks about what happened this week, which was really crazy. And this is not just because of the games that happened on Sunday where we had three kind of mouth-watering kind of match. Pretty much every single game this week was a mouth-watering match after what happened. I mean, like I said, we already had those three kind of marquee Sunday matches. We had a lot of red cards this week. I mean, look at that. And I think I'm also missing one, but there was 4 games this week that there was a red card in a game. And one of them actually had 2 red cards in the game. And we also had the fact that there were a couple of teams that also ended their long row winless run. And we also had a game that pretty much defined what the biggest problem right now that each of these 2 teams have this season. But without further ado, let's actually talk about the Sunday game because I'm pretty sure that's what you're here to watch for. You want me to talk about these 3 games. But like I said in the preview, I hope you stay throughout this whole video as I'm going to be kind of talking all 11 of these or all 8 of these other games because these other games were also very interesting. But we start with the Portland versus Seattle game, the Cascadia Derby. And, I was a bit disappointed about this one. I thought this one was probably the most boring one out of the 3 that I watched. Mainly because it just didn't seem like either of these teams want to attack. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that both of the striker for these 2 teams was just non-existent in this game. I mean, Clint Dempsey, he was just nowhere to be seen, which is kind of sums up how he's been this season and why a lot of Sounders fans are just, they're looking for a DP. Like, they're desperate for a DP striker right now. And for Portland, Fernando Adi decided to go back to his old kind of form, which is just not scoring a single goal and look absolutely poor doing last season and, the second part of last season to just only recently when he finally started to score some goals. But, yeah, this game really changed in the 75th minute when Kim Kei-hee unfortunately clashed heads with one of the Timbers player. And when I mean clash head, I mean he actually hits he had a clash of heads with a Portland Timber player. He didn't really get super angry, and he kind of went down, and that he have to be forced to sub off because of a head injury. And after that, the Timbers basically went all out attack, and they were just. It felt like the shackle of both Diego Valeri and Sebastian Blanco for some reason. I don't know why I say that, but the shackle of both those players basically just completely comes off. I mean, throughout this whole game, they just cannot do anything against the Sounder defense, which was very compact and very organized. But once Kim Kei-hee went off of an injury, it was pretty chaotic, this Sounders defense. And, the Timbers pushed forward. The Sounders was trying to hold on for a point. But unfortunately, the Timbers finally break through with Sebastian Blanco, who is just having an amazing year this year. I mean, earlier this season I talked about he was the offense for this team. Well, once again, he is the offense for this team in this game, scoring the only goal, and that's his 5th this season. And the Timbers get all 3 points, and now they have won 4 in a row, which I think now that is the longest winning streak because Orlando lost this week. So, yeah, certainly the Timbers fans are going to be very happy about this, and I think they're now above the red line for the first time this season. And 4 weeks ago, this team was near the bottom of the table. this also just shows you how the Western Conference, if you get on a very good run like what the Timbers are right now, it doesn't matter where you are in the table. You can literally go straight up toward the table and above the red lines if you have a little bit of a good winning streak like Timbers had, because the Western Conference is a mess right now. Like, there is only, besides Sporting KC and LAFC, nobody in this Western Conference look good at all. And you know, the Sounders, who is kind of like one of them right now. I mean, this has to be disappointing. I mean, they were coming into, like, I know the Sounders going to have a 2-week break after this, but imagine if they could have got a point out of this, and how you could kind of say that maybe if they get a point out of this, and the fact that they got 3 points coming off of that Toronto versus Seattle match on the road in the midweek, how much confidence that will build on this team, that they will believe that they can do what they did two year in the running, which is start off slow but eventually picked up, because that's how Seattle plays soccer throughout the season. But unfortunately that doesn't happen. The misery continues for the Sounders as they now sit in the bottom of the table again. And for Portland, yeah, certainly good things are happening. And the defense right now for Portland are all of a sudden look absolutely solid. I mean, this defense, which were leaking goals left to right in the beginning of the season, all of a sudden 3 straight clean sheets. And if this Timber defense can keep this up, then watch out for this Portland team, because once this defense kind of get itself going, then this is going to be a good team, because you know that the Timbers are going to be very good on the attacking end. So yeah, so definitely good win for the Timbers, and certainly disappointing result for the Sounders. And yeah, but yeah, next up, this one, wow, this was a very kind of firecracking kind of match. This one really looked like a derby match, and I know a couple of Orlando City and Atlanta fans say that it's not really a rivalry game because Atlanta always tends to win, and they kind of continue that culture with this game. But this game was really heated, and it was really just, it was crazy how the challenge and the tackles were flying in, and how the players were kind of like reacting to this game. It was I knew it was a very high stake kind of game, but it was very fiery, and it wasn't just on the pitch where it got really kind of intense. On the stands, it was like a volcano that was about to erupt, and that volcano actually did erupt, because right at the end of the game, after around the 93rd minute, when I believe it was Will Johnson that actually, he died in a play where he was hoping to get a free kick, and that he got absolutely animated by that, and he also got booked for dissent because of that. The fans just erupt. They just had enough of this really just bad call against them. And in this game, a lot of bad call was called in this game. Most of the bad call was against Orlando in this game, and it kind of all started with this penalty that Atlanta won, which Joseph Martinez basically took advantage of this, where it didn't look like a penalty. Like, it looked like I think it was Barco that got fouled by one of the Orlando City players, or who was that Orlando City player? Higuita, yeah. So it looked like Higuita push on Barco was very, very soft, and the fans were absolutely fuming about that. And from then on, they were just fuming at every single foul that was against them. And you know, I'll tell you what, you know, the way the fans' behavior in terms of just throwing stuff after that Will Johnson incident, it's unacceptable by the Orlando City fans. I mean, I get it that you're upset that your team is losing and all the calls are against you, but you cannot throw anything on the pitch just because of that. And in many ways, I really think what the fans did right in that moment really kind of harmed the team more than really just kind of helped them, because there was also about a minute left in that game, and Orlando City could have easily maybe get one or two more attacks to try to get the equalizer, but instead they couldn't because the fans were throwing trash to basically waste their time and express their frustration. And the other harmful thing about that is that they could have easily thrown the ball to their own player, and they could have easily injured their own player because of that action. So yeah, obviously that was an ugly scene, and I'm pretty sure the league is going to have to do something about this. I mean, I don't remember any kind of incidents where a lot of fans just completely trash their pitch because they're upset about a couple of calls that was not in their favor. And we'll see what the league's gonna do about this. They might fine Orlando City a couple of $1,000 for that, but yeah, for Atlanta, that this is certainly a big win for them. They of course come back after bounce back after they lost to Sporting KC in midweek. And and also the other goal was scored by Barco. The only goal scored by Orlando City was Justin Miro, which was his first goal. It's hard to believe that it has taken that long for Justin Miro to finally score a goal. But yes, Atlanta, certainly this is a win that kind of just said that this team is going to compete for that supporter shield and potentially be one of the best team in the league and compete for the MLS Cup. And for Orlando City, this loss obviously won't harm them in terms of their chances of making the playoffs, but it definitely harms them in terms of what they're going to do in the playoffs, because Orlando City is going to face a tough opponents in the playoffs. Since they play in the Eastern Conference, they're most likely going to face a tough opponent. And if Orlando City cannot beat that tough opponent, then this could be a little bit of a problem for Orlando City. And a lot of Orlando City fans are expecting their team to make to the conference final after all the signings that made. They're not just going to expect this team to make the playoff. They expect this team to actually do something in the playoffs. And this is where it can be a little bit of a problem for Orlando City, because so far, even doing that 6-game winning streak, they were playing a lot of weak teams and teams that potentially are not going to make the playoffs. And once in this game, when you play against a tough team and you couldn't get a win out of that, yeah, that might be a little bit concerning. But then again, I will say that Orlando City does have a couple more chances to prove that they can actually do something in the playoffs, because I think Atlanta is one of the few teams that they're gonna have to face this season, if they want to kind of prove that they can beat these teams that potentially they're gonna face in the playoffs. But yeah, next one. So talking about a game that is heated. This game was also very heated, but it was for different reason. It wasn't because of the challenges and the fans were complaining about the fouls. It was heated because both teams were firing on all cylinder on the attack. I mean, holy crap. The amount of end-to-end stuff, especially what happened in the second half. I was surprised that this game didn't end with ridiculous amount of number, and that this was going to be ended in a crooked kind of number of goals. And NYCFC in this game, and during that time when both team was just playing out of their mind, NYCFC were doing these kind of counter-attacking that you will only see when you see someone play FIFA 18. I mean, it was just so good. And for LAFC, it's kind of also the same thing, but it is also but it's more like on the attacking end. It was just crazy. It was a game that I really wish it wouldn't come to an end. And I was shocked the fact that there was only 4 minutes of stoppage time in this game, because I thought for sure there has to be more. Consider the fact that they did had some injury in that second half, and also they had a water break in that second half also. So I don't get why it's only like 4 minutes. And yeah, I mean, it was a really, really entertaining game. And it's only fair, I think, after that kind of entertaining game, that it ends in a 2-2 draw. And, you know, the goal scorer for this game, David Villa with another goal. He actually missed the penalty from this goal. Tyler Miller originally saved the penalty, but unfortunately for Miller, that ball bounced right back into Villa, who did pretty much a Superman kind of header to put it into the back of the net. And then LAFC equalized literally 9 minutes later when Ibaga put an own goal, and they took the lead thanks to Carlos Vela in the 66th minute. But then super sub Tajori Sharati, who just come back from an injury, with a spectacular goal to equalize. I mean, the way, I do not know how in the world did he actually score from just such a tight angle like that. He basically just hit it off the post and bounced it into the back of the net. It was a super goal there from Ismail Tajori Sharati. And, you know, after that, it was pretty much just all hell broke loose in terms of the attack and the defense, and also how the goalkeeper were in that game. This was probably right up there as the game of the season. I think besides maybe the NYCFC and Atlanta game we had earlier in the season where the quality was very good, this was also one of those games where it was amazing to see how things have gone. And the funny thing about this game is that both of these teams haven't actually looked that decent in their last couple of games. You know, NYCFC, they have definitely looked more human in the last couple of games. And in this game, they have shown that there were times where they just lacked that creativity on the attacking end. And that goes the same for LAFC too. And, you know, and it seemed like now the injury to Marco Arena is just, it started to take a bit of an effect of how there is really like no player that can just take on defense like what Marco Arena did, and basically put a perfect ball into either Carlos Vela and Diego Rossi to put it back in. And it's no wonder why ever since Marco Arena suffered that injury and not in this team, that Vela and Rossi is not scoring the goal, and especially Diego Rossi. He is in a little bit of a goal drought right now after he had a very good start to the season. But either way, this 2-2 draw, certainly I think both teams will be happy to take a point out of this. Both teams are still in very good position in the playoffs. They're definitely going to be making the playoffs this season. But yeah, next up, Vancouver with a 2-2 draw against Houston. And now I'm going to start talking about the rest of the game that happened on Friday and Saturday. And this game happened on Friday, and this game pretty much just explained the biggest problems for both of these teams this season and why they are just bad this season. So Houston opened the scoring in the 35th minute from Thomas Martinez. And then Jose Aja scored the equalizer in the 44th minute, and it was just such a bad defense being there from Houston. The fact that Aja basically just scored, like, that was just it. That goal should have never had happened if Houston would have done a better job in the defensive end. And then in the second half, Vancouver pretty much just dominate the whole game. I mean, they did not give Houston any chance at all. They were just, Houston was pretty much just stuck in their own half, and Vancouver had so many opportunities to put that crucial second goal away and to go ahead in this game. And probably the biggest opportunity, and this actually might end up in Sports Center not top 10 play next Friday, and probably this might be one, if not the worst miss I have ever seen in MLS, is the Brek Shea miss. I mean, what happened in that play was, I think it was Kamara that delivered the ball into the box, and Brek Shea was left completely unmarked. I don't know who in the world was marking him, but he was left completely unmarked. He was 7 yards out, and all he had to do was just tap the ball into the back of the net, and instead, he completely whiffed it. He completely whiffed the ball, and the ball actually even rose into the net, and it actually almost went into the back of the net if it wasn't for the Dynamo player to clear that one off the line. But Brek Shea missing that from 7 yards out, just wide open, nobody around him. I honestly could not believe what I just saw in that. I mean, it was just, I was absolutely shocked of how he missed that. And I can't imagine how the Whitecaps fans will react to it. They must be, one, very livid that Brek Shea missed that, and two, must be shocked the fact that they were not up 2-1. And to add insult to injury in that game, Manotas literally score a goal against the run of play, and it looked like it was a total embarrassment by Vancouver, from just completely dominate the entire game to potentially dropping all 3 points once again. But fortunately for them, they rescued themselves from ultimate embarrassment by Kendall Watson scoring a goal in the 94th minute. And that is the problem for Houston this season on the road. I mean, Houston are just finding multiple ways now to not get 3 points, and this is the third game in the last 4 road trip that Houston has conceded a goal in the 85th minute or later, to drop 2 points and to drop not drop all 3 points, but potentially getting all 3 points. I mean, it is definitely heartbreaking once again for the Dynamo. But remember how I said in the preview how it feels like there is a curse right now with Houston just unable to win on the road. Well, it seemed like that curse is continuing. Like, this team just cannot win on the road, and I don't know why. Like, even when it looked like they're going to win on the road, like this game for instance, they've always find a way to not get all 3 points. So yeah, it's certainly disappointed for Houston. And as for Vancouver, even with the late goal, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are not happy about this result. I mean, they should have won this game. I mean, this was really looked like the similar case in that last game against Minnesota, where they just could not finish at all. And you wonder how long before Carl Robinson gets before he is out of the door. I mean, a lot of Whitecaps fans want Robinson to get out of the club because the tactics that he uses doing multiple Whitecaps game has been just outdated and also ineffective whatsoever. But yeah, next up, so I went to the view party of this game, and by the way, I will do a reaction to the Q&A session between Jesse Forinelli and the fans. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to film that one, which you guys probably have already know it because you probably have already watched the match vlog. And if I would have filmed it, I would have probably put it up straight away. But yeah, I'll do a reaction to that hopefully tomorrow. But yeah, the Quakes finally ended that long winless streak, that miserable winless streak that we have. And would you believe they ended their winless streak to a team that they beat, and the team that pretty much we beat, but then started this whole long miserable winless streak, and that of course is Minnesota. I mean, it just feels like I wish the Quakes can play Minnesota every single week, because so far the 4 meetings that we have against Minnesota United, 4 of them were all wins, and those were some really kind of dramatic wins too. I mean, you know, we all remember what happened last year in the last day of the season where we got into the playoff because of a last-minute goal by Marco Arena. And then the first game of the season where we literally had to hold on for dear life in that game. And then in this one, there wasn't really that kind of drama, but what was so dramatic about this game was that how bad we play, and yet we still got 3 points. Like, the performance that we put in this game was nothing different from the performance we've been putting in this winless streak, but yet somehow in some way we get all 3 points at it, and I think that's all I care about for now. Like, I really can care less if we play like absolute garbage in this game, where once again our midfield was absolutely ineffective, our defense giving up a sloppy goal. This one, once again, it was all because of Salinas, who decided to add to another collection of giving the ball away and concede a goal because of that giveaway that he has in his bag of trick. I mean, yeah, and I thought for sure that after that, Minnesota pretty much just dominated the game, and I thought for sure that they were going to get the second goal. But fortunately for Minnesota, they're not a good team, and somehow, in some way, against the run of plays, Houston scored the goal, and then Wando added to the penalty. We actually got 2 penalties in this game, which is a bit odd because the Quakes tends to never get penalties. Like, I remember last season, I think we only got like 3 penalties and stuff like that, and we got 2 in this game. But yeah, some will say we kind of got lucky of this, but for me, I say that I'm happy that the team finally won. And now it feels like this might be, I'm hoping this might be the beginning of us trying to recover our season, because I know the Quakes are going to have a lot of easy game upcoming. I mean, they're going to play Vancouver on the road, and you just saw what happened to Vancouver against Houston. And it's also, we tends to have had a couple of good success against Vancouver, minus what happened in the playoffs last season. And then we got DC United, and we got the Galaxy next after that. So these next couple of games is very important for us, and I'm hoping that because we're in probably the easiest stretch right now this season, I'm really hoping that the team can at least not lose any of those 3 games. That would be a very good thing. But yeah, so talk about a team that ended a long winless run. Philly is another team that ended a long winless run, and their long winless run is not really their overall winless run this season, but it's the road winless run that they had. So they were coming into this game against Montreal with 17 games without a win on the road, and yet somehow in some way they pull a win out in this game against an Impact team that, wow, I mean, I don't know what I can say about the Impact other than the fact that this team is absolutely garbage. And another thing that I also want to say about this game is that this is another type of game where the team that tends to be the worst goes down a man, but yet they still look good, and the other team can't capitalize on that. And what I mean by that is that a team that tends to be the underdog and they went down a man, and the other team should basically capitalize on that and potentially score a goal or 2. I mean, we've seen it this season with a couple of matches too. Remember the DC United versus Columbus match? DC United went down to 10 men, and Columbus was on a pretty good run, and yet Columbus could not find a goal against DC United. Even though that DC United were down to 10 men. And it also happened in the Minnesota versus Vancouver game last week, where Minnesota was down to 10 men and they looked like the worst team against Houston, but Vancouver, and yet Vancouver couldn't take advantage of it. And this was the same case again, although Montreal did get a player send off in the 69th minute. And yeah, I mean, at least one thing you could say about Philly is at least they finished their chances. I mean, that's been kind of the big problem they have this season. And, although at times in this game they still look like they just could not finish to save their life, at least they put the ball into the back of the net. And, for Montreal, holy crap, this team is just so bad. Like, without Piatti, this team is just nothing. This team might as well be like the worst team in the league right now, with the way that they're just been run by a one-man show, and it just does not get any better. Like right now, I feel like every single team that play Montreal, it's pretty clear that all you need to do is shut down Piatti and you're gonna get a win. Like it's not even that hard to do anymore. That Montreal is just such a one-man team, and if you're a one-man team in the game of soccer, when it's more about a team kind of game, then you are really screwed. And that is what Montreal is right now. But talk about another team that is screwed, as I'm going to try to hurry this up because we're already into the 30-minute mark, and I don't want to make this a super long preview. The Galaxy is another team that is looking like they are screwed right now. I mean, after this loss against FC Dallas, they have now lost 4 in a row. And this is literally doing the stretch. Zlatan talked about how he still thinks that LA is going to win trophy this season. Yeah. The only trophy that I think the Galaxy might have this year is probably the wooden spoon. I mean, it is just... everything is falling apart from the Galaxy. And in this game, it was the defense that was once again the issue. I mean, this defense from the Galaxy looked like the same defense from last year, which is just giving up goals left and right and left and right. And, the midfield in this game was also shocking at times. And the attack was okay at times, and then okay and not okay at times, but at the end of the game, the Galaxy lost again. And for Dallas, this is certainly a good victory, although I will say that since they beat the Galaxy and how the Galaxy are kind of like in a fertility right now, it might not be just a emphatic victory. But considering the fact that they were down to 10 men and they had to like hold on for the last couple of minutes, and that this game could have also easily made it 3, or not make it, but this game would have easily been at 3-3 because Zlatan hit the post late in the game on a free kick. This certainly is a good victory for Dallas. And one thing I was very impressed about Dallas in this game is that Mauro Diaz and Maxi Urruti looks good in that game, and especially Mauro Diaz. He had an impressive game in this game, and probably he was the man of the match in this game with 3 assists. And Lamar obviously with the brace, and Urruti with just probably the goal of the week kind of candidate, and probably he might win this one with it. Just an absolute amazing strike where he basically just kind of like cuts right and then just hits that one off balance and puts it into the back of the net. It was amazing. It was just such a sweet kind of strike from Maxi Urruti. And like I said in the preview, if Dallas can get Urruti and Mauro Diaz going, this team is going to be a very dangerous team. And right now, I think Dallas, despite the fact that they are kind of like flying under the radar, and it is pretty much what Oscar Pereira wants this team to be, this is going to be a team that is potentially going to be going into be a playoff contention team, and once they go into the playoff, they might think about making a good run on this. So yeah, certainly Dallas, good win for them, although they are still on this really murderous roll in this season. And yeah, we're gonna, so far they are pulling through this murderous roll kind of stretch just as fine as you would hope for. But yeah, next up, so Columbus win 3-0 against the Fire. I think this game was probably the least surprising game out of all of them. I mean, Columbus, who is another team that is also kind of started to fly under the radar with that 5-game winning, or not winning, but 5-game unbeaten run against Chicago. Jerzy Zardes, a guy that is definitely flying under the radar with a brace in this game. He's now up to 8 goals, and he is now continually proving me wrong that he can't not do it anymore, and that he is not going to be a player that he once was when he was with the Galaxy a couple of years ago. And Higuain with another goal. I mean, these two players are pretty much, for majority of this season, has been kind of the offense for Columbus right now. But yeah, this was a pretty straightforward win for Columbus. And as for Chicago, yeah, I told you guys that win against Montreal was really nothing to be proud of, because you play a bad team, and then once you go on the road and you play against a Columbus team that is actually good, yep, you are going to be screwed. And that was the case in this game. But yeah, next up, the Revs take on Toronto, and they won that game 3-2 against Toronto. Goals from Penena and Bunbury. Christian Penena with a brace in this game. TFC on a losing cause, with Javinko scoring a penalty and Demela scoring an own goal for TFC. And then Javinko, after he scored that penalty, actually got sent off because apparently he decided to grab somebody in the face. I actually didn't see what exactly happened in that incident, because when I watched the condensed game version of this, they did not show the incident. But all I know is that somebody said that he got sent off because he put his hands in an opponent's face, which is an automatic red card. And yeah, this is a big statement win for the Revs. And I said in the preview that if they would want any chance of potentially making the playoffs this year, they have to beat TFC and send a message that, hey, we are going to we are being serious about this playoff contention that we have, and that this early good run of fortune that we have is just not totally a fluke. And in this game, that is the case. Although TFC did kind of made it interesting in the end, but the Revs with another 3 points at home, and they are certainly pulling away from the team that is below them in the red line. I think the next team that is below them in the red line is Chicago, and they have like 6 points on them. So yeah, the Revs are right now early on in a very good spot to potentially make the playoffs. And for TFC, so I talked about how they were in this kind of sticky situation where they're like near the bottom of the Eastern Conference, and that they have a lot of injuries, and also the fact that they had some CCL commitment early in the season. And it's just that they're not as bad as the standings says. But after this game, and especially the fact that they're not going to have Javinko in the next game because of the red card, there has to be some concern in terms of the TFC fan base that this team might be in trouble of just not only not making into the top 4, but not even making the playoffs at all. Because I thought for sure that TFC eventually was gonna get their act together, and that after this kind of CCL thing done, they were gonna finally pick up points. But right now they haven't really done that, and I'm hoping that once they got everybody back together, and that once their injury issue that they've been just dealing with throughout this whole season so far has been dealt with, then they can start to make a comeback. But I just have a feeling that maybe TFC might not be finishing the top 4 this season. And because they're in the Eastern Conference too, it also doesn't help them, the fact that they they're playing catch up. I mean, TFC was in the Western Conference, then yeah, there's no worry whatsoever that they might be maybe in danger of missing the playoffs. But because they're in the Eastern Conference, and if they don't pick up their slack in these next couple of games, there has to be some concern that this team could maybe, just maybe, miss the playoffs this season. And that would be shocking too, because a team that a couple of months ago was considered probably the best team in MLS history are now in a time where this could be the worst team in MLS right now. I mean, who would have thought that would happen? But yeah, the last two games, Colorado. I always get confused with Columbus and Colorado when I look at these acronyms. But Colorado with another loss to the Red Bulls, and Colorado is just one of those teams that is just on a really long winless run and also a losing run right now. I think this is the third straight loss or the fourth straight loss for Columbus. And yeah, I mean, Columbus, oh my god, I keep saying Columbus, but it's Colorado actually. But yeah, Colorado, it seemed like that early season where they kind of gone a little bit on a good run early part of the season is started to wearing off very quickly, and that this is really kind of the Colorado team that we sort of expect. And you know, the Red Bulls, they didn't really play that well in this game, but they didn't really need to play well at all because they're playing against the Rapids team that is just they're in a bad run of form right now. And you know, the Red Bulls right now, it's hard to believe that they're still only in fifth in the standing right now. Consider how good they are. Although I think in the points per game ratio, they're actually the second highest in terms of that category. So technically, they should be in second if all the teams play the same amount of games. And yeah, this Red Bull team is a very, very good team, and they're part of that elite group in the Eastern Conference that is gonna fight it out once the playoffs would potentially begin in these next couple of months. And yeah, but yeah, on to the last game of this match week preview or match week review. RSL with a 3-2 win over DC United. Goals from Bear, Rusnak, and Severino for RSL. For DC United, Ariola and Bourbon for them on a losing cause. Mora also got sent off for DC United in this game, and really, after the sending off, if you were watching this game, which unfortunately I wasn't one of those people that watched this game, after Mora got sent off, you might as well just turn off the TV, because you know that this is probably going to be a RSL win. I mean, I know at that point it was 1-1, and I know what I said before, that DC United versus Columbus Crew, when DC United were down to 10 men, and somehow they were able to pull a miraculous win, even though they were down to 10 men. Yeah, this was on the road, and RSL this season, despite the fact that they have been kind of having a mediocre season, they've been very good they've been very good at home, and combined with the fact that DC United are really poor on the road and just really poor in general, it was always going to be RSL that's going to get the win. Although DC United did try to make this a little bit interesting, but yeah, it was always going to be an RSL win. And this is also one of the resort that is probably the least surprise this year. Or not this year, but this week. But yeah, that is pretty much all the games from this week. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all these 11 games this week. I will do the power rankings tomorrow, actually, because it is actually 10:30 right now, and I have to take a shower and just start studying for some final exam, which starts next week. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I will see you guys next time.